And the left-wing media says the red wave is dead. Do we think the red wave is dead? It is very much alive. Are you excited to send Senator Mark Kelly back to space next Tuesday? We're going to do it. Could not be more important. We need a statewide sweep. Are you excited for Governor Carrie Lake? She's going to be so amazing. You know, my one problem with Carrie's race right now is apparently we're not going to get to witness a debate between Katie Hobbs and Carrie Lake. Isn't that sad? I know. Katie Hobbs is a coward. But you know what? While Katie Hobbs is not the smartest person in the world, she's at least clever enough to understand what Carrie Lake would do to her on a debate stage, right? I mean, grab the popcorn, buckle up. That would be a spectacle. So while Katie Hobbs refuses to debate Carrie Lake, I think at this point Senator Mark Kelly is wishing that he refused to debate me. We put him on the ropes a couple weeks ago, although, hey, he had a very difficult task, right? He had to defend his record. Well, his record's indefensible. Mark Kelly promised 2 years ago, he promised us that he would be independent. Has he been independent in the U.S. Senate? He's been Chuck Schumer's lapdog. He's been a water carrier for Biden's agenda. Mark Kelly in the U.S. Senate for the past 2 years has been voting more in lockstep with the Democratic Party than even Bernie Sanders. Here's the difference between Bernie Sanders and Mark Kelly. Bernie Sanders will at least look you in the eye and tell you what he is, right? Bernie Sanders, man, he's horrible. He's wrong about everything. But he will look you in the eye and admit what he is. He's a far-left socialist. Well, Mark Kelly votes the same way as Bernie Sanders, even worse. But then he's on your TV screen now pretending to be a center-right Republican, right? I stand up to Joe Biden. Really, Mark? When? I wish he had, but he never does. And Mark Kelly's helped Joe Biden. He's done more than anyone in the whole country to help Joe Biden drag us further and further in the wrong direction. I knew Biden was going to be bad. You knew Biden-Harris. You always have to hyphenate it, right? Biden-Harris. I knew it was going to be a disaster. But I'll be honest, I did not know they'd be able to deliver this much pain and chaos and dysfunction in just 20 months. It's like they're ruining the country. If you were trying to destroy the country, I'm not sure what different you'd be doing than what Biden and Mark Kelly are doing. Every day on the campaign trail for the past 500 days, people ask me, Blake, are they really just that incompetent? And I say, yes, they really are that incompetent. But isn't it so much worse than that? Do you ever get the feeling like the Democrats in charge, everything they're doing to us is intentional? They're doing this on purpose. January 20th, last year when Biden was sworn in, I was sick to my stomach. But what's the first thing he did? He signed an executive. He canceled a lot of things that first day. One of the first things he did was he canceled the border wall. Why would you do that? It was almost finished. Biden canceled it. He surrendered our sovereignty to the Mexican drug cartels. Mark Kelly has backed Joe Biden's open borders policies at every turn. These guys are absolutely incompetent, but I think they're clever enough to know that when you throw the borders wide open in this, the greatest country in the history of the world, you're going to cause a crisis. People want to come here. And especially when Joe Biden and Mark Kelly, they said to all these illegal aliens, hey, come on in. Not only will we not deport you, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. When you come into this country illegally, federal law says, hey, nothing personal, but you're not allowed to do that, right? You want to come, get in line. You got to come legally. You can't sneak in. You sneak in, we're going to apprehend you. We're going to turn you over to ICE and deport you back to your home country, or if that's not safe, then back to a different country that wants you. That's the way it's supposed to work. Well, Joe Biden and Mark Kelly reversed all those policies. They said, not only will we not deport you, but here's an incentive. Here's cash. Here's a cell phone. Here's a bus ticket straight to Phoenix Sky Harbor, where for the last 20 months, they've been running midnight flights out, ferrying these illegal aliens to anywhere they want to go in this country, except Martha's Vineyard. No, don't go to Martha's Vineyard. No, 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 right? And what a spectacle that was. The Martha's Vineyard people. It's just limousine liberalism, right? Champagne socialism. They're such hypocrites. They said, we love sanctuary cities until they got one taste of sanctuary cities. Then they said, no thanks. They called the National Guard. Please come help us. We don't have the infrastructure to deal with these 50 people. 50 people. You know who doesn't have the infrastructure? Nogales. Douglas, Yuma, right? And not just our border towns, every county in Arizona. Actually, Mark Kelly and Joe Biden have turned every county in America into a border county. And Yuma doesn't get 50 one time. They get 50 every hour. 300,000 illegals cross our border every month. Not every year, every month. The media, they called Governor Ron DeSantis a human trafficker for sending 50 to Martha's Vineyard one time. Mark Kelly and Joe Biden, they're basically business partners with the Mexican drug cartel at this point. They have helped the drug cartel. They have helped the drug cartel traffic more than 4.5 million human beings illegally into our country in just the last 20 months. They're doing it on purpose. Of course, it's not good for the people who are coming here. The men are being sold into some kind of modern-day slavery. The women and children are horribly brutalized by the cartel. It's the biggest crime zone in the country, a humanitarian disaster. Mark Kelly doesn't care about that. And it's not just the people, right? The fentanyl that's coming through. It's killing our kids. We've lost 100,000 Americans to this poison. And that's the right term for it, by the way. I don't talk about overdoses. No, these are poisoning deaths. We know that China, the Chinese Communist Party, they're sending over the precursor chemicals to the Mexican drug cartel labs where it's compounded up into the pills and the powder. 90% of this fentanyl, this poison that comes in, or that's in our country, comes in through that southern border. Where's Mark Kelly been on this? Radio silent for the past 20 months while we've lost more than 2,000 Arizonans to this poison, young people. Just earlier this week, Mark Kelly finally decided he should start to pretend to care about fentanyl. Isn't that nice? I think he was reading his polls. I've caught up to Mark Kelly in the polls, by the way. This race is a dead heat. We've got the momentum. We'll talk about that. But Mark Kelly, he knows I'm on his heels. So he said, well, we should probably do something about this. He didn't care about the dead children, but he did care about being seen to be tough on fentanyl in the days before a very close election. So he released a press release and some performative legislation that he wouldn't even work hard to pass out of committee so that he can get on your TV screen and say, I tried to stop fentanyl with the Stop Fentanyl in 22 Act. It's just a lie. But I've met with mothers who have lost their kids to this poison. I wonder if Senator Kelly has. I think he should attend some of these funerals, right? When I said that for the first time a few weeks ago, the media criticized me. They said that was too harsh. Do you feel like that's too harsh? I actually don't feel like it's harsh enough. Let him look a grieving mother in the eye and explain to her why, as the 50th vote in the U.S. Senate, he had tremendous leverage. He could have put Biden's agenda on ice until Biden gave us some border security. He failed to do it. Let him look a grieving mother in the eye and explain to her why he couldn't be bothered to lift a finger for border security. I think his dereliction of duty at the southern border alone, that is enough justification to fire Mark Kelly on Tuesday. I wish that were the only crisis that the Democrats have caused, but of course they're causing crises left and right. Look at our economy, right? Don't look at your 401k. Giant disaster. But again, I'm not going to suggest that Mark Kelly or Joe Biden are competent enough to ever shepherd a healthy economy. No, I think they're in over their heads. But look at what they've done to destroy our economy. I think they did it on purpose. What's the second thing that Biden canceled right after the border wall? The Keystone Pipeline. Why would you do that? What did these geniuses think was going to happen? If you declare war on oil and gas in a country that's still mostly powered by oil and gas, gosh, you think that might make the price of gas go up? They either didn't understand what was going to happen, which means they're idiots, or you know what? I think the people in charge, some of them, they're a little bit more clever than that. They knew darn well that their policies were going to make your gasoline more expensive. And they don't care. They took gas from $2 to $6. Now they want a prize because it's back down closer to $5 in Maricopa County. Why? Because Biden is selling out oil from our strategic petroleum reserve, compromising our national security in a desperate bid to push gas prices down before the midterms. But if you give Mark Kelly any more time in office to rubber stamp Joe Biden's agenda, soon gas will be $8, $10, $12 a gallon. And Pete Buttigieg will look you in the eye. If he's back from paternity leave yet. Is he back yet? Is he back working? I'm not sure. But he will look you in the eye and say, good, you should be paying $12 a gallon. You should be driving an electric car. That's what they think about us. Well, here's the problem. When they made energy expensive by surrendering our energy independence, they made everything expensive. They caused massive inflation because everything you need to live takes energy to make or to move. That's fully half the inflation right there. America Last energy policy. Well, what was the other half? The money printing. These geniuses, again, what did they think was going to happen when they just ran the printing presses and printed and spent $6 trillion in the last 20 months? Mark Kelly doesn't understand how that causes inflation. Okay, his official explanation for inflation is, well, you see, the greedy businessmen get together. The corporations, they all decide to raise prices at the same time. They're price gouging. This is capitalism's fault. That's what Mark Kelly says causes inflation. Well, he may not understand, but I'll tell you what, my 8-year-old understands perfectly well that when the government just prints $1 trillion, it devalues every dollar in your wallet. You would just inject all this money into the system, chasing the same number of goods and services. Yeah, it's going to make prices go up. At the gas pump, at the grocery store, your rent prices keep going up and up and up. They caused this inflation. But it's okay, they have a fix. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act. Build Back Broke. How do you like the way they name these bills, by the way, right? The Inflation Reduction Act. It's so Orwellian. It's always just the opposite. Did Obama's Affordable Care Act make your health care affordable? Prices just skyrocket. Beware if the Democrats name a bill the Puppies and Rainbows and Unicorns Act. Because there's something evil in that bill, I'll tell you what. And the cherry on top of this $700 billion tax and spend bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, is 87,000 IRS agents. Do we like the IRS agents? And to hire those 87,000 IRS agents, Mark Kelly first had to reject an amendment that would have required hiring 18,000 more Border Patrol agents, who we desperately need. Should we double the size of the Border Patrol to deal with this crazy border crisis? Obviously, yes. But Mark Kelly said no. He kept our border wide open, said no to more Border Patrol, and yes to doubling the size of the IRS. And you got other problems. The weaponization of the DOJ, they think you're a domestic terrorist. If you have the audacity to say, hey, can I please see a syllabus of what you're teaching my kid in school? Right? What about Biden and Mark Kelly weeding out our military, forcing out brave, healthy warriors because they didn't want to get the COVID vaccine? I think that every single service member who was pushed out of the military on account of that COVID vaccine should be offered their job back with back pay. It's the least we could do. Let's see if Mark Kelly agrees to that. He never will. He never will. Thank you. It's the least we could do for our brave men and women in uniform. So look, we got a lot of problems. I feel myself being depressing up here. I'm sorry about that. But I'm also just being honest, right? You know as well as I do, after just 20 months, we can't take this anymore. Our backs are against the wall. And if we don't play our cards right, if we don't elect the right Republicans and send them into office in 3 days, we're 3 days away from losing this country. But guess what? I also think we're 3 days away from winning this country back. What do you think? We're going to do it. I've got the momentum in my race. We've had it for about a month. We've pulled even with Senator Kelly. My libertarian opponent, Mark Victor, graciously dropped out and endorsed me. So my closing message to the people of Arizona is pretty simple. It's, hey, take a look around you. If you love the wide open southern border and unlimited illegal immigration, if you love the fentanyl coming in that's killing our kids, if you like double-digit increases in violent crime in our cities and towns, if you like paying too much for gas and groceries, if you like all that, if you like the schools teaching your kid to be transgender, hey, yikes. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with you, but there's a Senate candidate for you. There's a Senate candidate who supports that agenda. His name's Mark Kelly, right? He's given us all these problems. We can't give him any more time. If you think you and your family deserve better, hey, it's easy. Let's vote for a change. Get me in there to the U.S. Senate. I will make you proud. Get Mark Fincham in as your next Secretary of State. He's going to be great. Abe Hamadeh. How great is Abe Hamadeh? We're all going to fight for you and fight for Arizona families. And now it is my great honor to introduce someone else who's going to fight for Arizona families. Your next governor of Arizona, Kari Lake.